A 25-year-old rookie just declared he'd rather retire than play for one of baseball's most successful franchises. Hunter Dobbins' explosive statement that he'd quit before wearing Yankees pinstripes has divided experts. Was this a masterclass in personal branding and rivalry leverage, or a career-limiting display of poor judgment? In 3 days, Dobbins went from relative unknown to national headline, backed up his words with a win against the Yankees, and sparked conversations across sports media. Today, we're examining both sides of this controversial strategy, the brilliant elements that elevated his profile and the risky decisions that could haunt his career. Is Hunter Dobbins a strategic genius or a cautionary tale?
What we're witnessing is a fascinating case study in high-risk personal branding. From a masterclass perspective, Dobbins achieved something most rookies never do: instant name recognition and emotional investment from fans. Studies show that villain narratives in sports increase viewership by 30%, and Dobbins created that dynamic immediately. However, from a professional liability standpoint, he also documented character risk for every future employer. The question isn't whether the strategy worked short-term; it clearly did. The question is whether the long-term costs outweigh the immediate benefits.
From a masterclass angle, Dobbins leveraged existing infrastructure, the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry, to amplify his personal brand exponentially. Instead of spending years building recognition, he inserted himself into baseball's most compelling narrative. That's brilliant platform thinking, but from a liability perspective, he just created character risk documentation that follows him forever. Smart organizations will now wonder, if he makes absolute statements about employers, what other non-negotiables might affect team chemistry? He solved his visibility problem while potentially creating a trust problem.
This is like launching a controversial product feature. High-risk, high-reward strategy. From the masterclass side, Dobbins executed perfect villain marketing. He understood that strong reactions, positive or negative, drive engagement better than lukewarm approval. But he also took on what I call technical debt, short-term gains that could create long-term maintenance problems. If his performance doesn't consistently support his bold statements, this strategy becomes a liability that compounds over time. It's brilliant if he can scale it, dangerous if he can't.
Dr. Mitchell, let's start with the masterclass argument. What did Dobbins accomplish strategically with his statement?
Brilliantly, Dobbins created instant emotional investment from multiple fan bases. Red Sox fans now see him as one of us, someone who truly gets the rivalry. Yankees fans have a specific target to focus their energy on. Neutral observers are intrigued by the boldness. Most rookies spend years trying to create this level of fan engagement. Dobbins achieved it in one interview. He also positioned himself as the authentic alternative to corporate-speak athletes. In an era where fans crave genuineness, his willingness to speak his truth resonated powerfully.
The timing was strategically perfect. He made these comments before his first Yankees start, creating maximum drama and media attention. Every pitch became a storyline. When Aaron Judge homered off him, it wasn't just a home run, it was a narrative moment. When Dobbins won the game, it validated his confidence. He turned a routine start into appointment television. That's sophisticated understanding of sports entertainment value. Most rookies get lost in the shuffle. Dobbins made himself unmissable.
From a platform strategy perspective, it's genius. Instead of building his brand from scratch, he leveraged the existing Yankees-Red Sox ecosystem. The rivalry has built-in infrastructure, media coverage, fan engagement, historical context. Dobbins basically performed a hostile takeover of that narrative space. It's like building on top of an established platform rather than creating your own from zero. Smart entrepreneurs do this all the time. Find existing demand and insert yourself into it.
But Marcus, what about the professional liability side? What are the potential long-term costs?
The liability is real and permanent. Every front office now has documented evidence that Dobbins makes absolute statements about potential employers. Organizations will ask, if he's this inflexible about one team, what other deal breakers does he have? What happens when he disagrees with coaching decisions or team policies? He's created a reputation for prioritizing emotion over strategy. When contract negotiations come up, teams will factor in the chaos premium, the additional cost of managing someone who makes dramatic public statements.
The psychological liability is that he's locked himself into this identity. If his performance drops or circumstances change, he can't easily walk back such an absolute statement without looking hypocritical. He's also set a precedent for making bold declarations. Fans and media will expect him to continue this pattern. That creates pressure to escalate controversy to maintain attention. It's like being trapped by your own brand persona. Success becomes dependent on sustaining drama rather than just performance.
The technical debt analogy applies here. He gained immediate benefits but created long-term maintenance costs. Every future statement gets scrutinized for consistency with his authentic brand. Every poor performance gets amplified because he raised expectations. If he ever needs to sign with the Yankees due to career circumstances, injury, performance decline, limited options, this statement becomes devastating to his credibility. He essentially hard-coded a constraint into his career path.
Riley, how do we evaluate whether this was ultimately smart strategy or dangerous gamble?
It depends on execution and adaptability. If Dobbins can consistently perform at a high level, the masterclass elements outweigh the liability risks. His bold statement becomes part of a compelling success narrative. But if his performance becomes inconsistent, the liability compounds. Teams will question both his judgment and his ability. The key is whether he can evolve beyond controversy-driven attention to substance-driven respect. Right now, he's running a successful A/B test, but he needs to iterate and optimize based on results.
The masterclass versus liability debate really comes down to sustainable competitive advantage. Dobbins created instant differentiation, but that advantage is only valuable if he can defend it with performance. If he becomes a consistent, successful pitcher, his authenticity becomes a strength that builds deeper fan loyalty than generic corporate athletes achieve. If he struggles, his boldness becomes arrogance and his authenticity becomes poor judgment. The strategy works if he can back it up long-term.
What's particularly smart is how he positioned it as family loyalty rather than personal arrogance. He didn't say the Yankees were a bad organization. He framed it as honoring his father's Red Sox devotion. That makes the statement more palatable and harder to attack. It's not professional disrespect, it's personal integrity. That's sophisticated messaging that protects him from the worst backlash while still creating the desired controversy. Even his villain positioning has sympathetic elements.
Dr. Mitchell, what can we learn from how the Yankees veterans responded to his strategy?
The veteran responses were masterful and instructive. Aaron Judge's comparison to Ken Griffey Jr. provided historical context while subtly noting how rare such statements are. Jazz Chisholm's reaction, calling it crazy while respecting the competitiveness, showed professional maturity. Aaron Boone's diplomatic deflection protected team focus. None of them took the bait for a prolonged controversy. This demonstrates that while Dobbins' strategy created attention, veteran professionals understand that engaging with rookie drama diminishes their own stature. They let performance speak instead.
The veterans' responses actually validated Dobbins' strategy. Judge homered on the first pitch, a perfect performance-based response that created an iconic moment. Both players became part of Dobbins' narrative without getting dragged into lengthy controversy. It's like competitors acknowledging a disruptive startup by improving their own product rather than engaging in public feuds. The veterans showed that the best response to bold statements is superior execution, which ironically made Dobbins' gambit more successful by creating compelling storylines.
What's fascinating is that Dobbins doubled down after the game, saying the criticism made the rivalry more fun and that he enjoyed it a lot. From a masterclass perspective, this shows he understands that sustained attention requires ongoing engagement. You can't just make one bold statement and disappear. From a liability perspective, it suggests he might not fully grasp the long-term consequences and could escalate unnecessarily. The question is whether he's strategically managing his brand or getting caught up in the moment.
So what's the verdict, masterclass or professional liability?
It's both simultaneously. Dobbins executed a brilliant short-term strategy that created massive brand value and emotional engagement, but he also created long-term risk that could compound if his circumstances change. The masterclass elements, platform leverage, timing, messaging, performance delivery were genuinely sophisticated. The liability elements, absolute statements, character, risk documentation, constraint creation are equally real. Success depends on his ability to consistently perform at a level that makes teams overlook the risks for the benefits.
The key insight is that modern careers increasingly require this kind of strategic risk-taking. Generic, safe approaches get lost in the noise. Dobbins understood that controversy creates clarity. People know exactly who he is and what he represents. That's valuable in an attention economy. The liability comes from the permanence of public statements in the digital age. But if he can consistently deliver performance that justifies his confidence, this becomes a career-defining masterclass in personal branding. If he can't, it becomes a cautionary tale about overconfidence.
For young professionals watching this, the lesson isn't to avoid bold statements. It's to ensure you can scale them. Dobbins' strategy works if he builds the technical foundation to support his brand promises. The masterclass is in understanding platform dynamics and audience psychology. The liability is in making commitments before developing the capabilities to sustain them. Whether this becomes legendary or catastrophic depends entirely on execution quality over time. It's a high-risk, high-reward approach that requires exceptional follow-through.
Dr. Mitchell Marcus, Riley, thank you for this nuanced analysis. You've shown us that Hunter Dobbins' statement defies simple categorization. It's simultaneously brilliant strategic thinking and dangerous career risk-taking. What we've learned is that in today's attention economy, bold moves create opportunities, but only for those skilled enough to capitalize on them. The difference between masterclass and professional liability often comes down to execution quality and long-term consistency. The human cost of Hunter Dobbins' declaration isn't just about one statement. It's about the pressure of living up to bold promises, the weight of constant scrutiny, and the challenge of maintaining authenticity while building sustainable success. Dobbins chose a high-wire act over safe ground, controversy over conformity, memorable over forgettable. Whether this becomes a masterclass in personal branding or a cautionary tale about professional liability depends entirely on what happens next. He created the platform. Now he must prove he deserves it. The veteran's responses, Judge's productive focus, Kishome's respectful pushback, Boone's diplomatic maturity, provide a masterclass in professional response to provocation. In our hyper-connected world, every young professional faces the Dobbins dilemma: play it safe and risk invisibility, or take bold risks and face permanent scrutiny. The smartest approach isn't avoiding all risk. It's ensuring you have the skills to deliver on whatever promises your boldness creates. Sometimes the only difference between a strategic genius and a cautionary tale is what happens in the next pitch.